I'm joined now in studio by Pravin Gordhan's lawyer, Tebogo Malatji. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Why is the minister going to court to suspend this report?
Afternoon to you and the viewers. Well, there are many reasons why a minister is taking the report on review. Firstly, it's a matter of should she have investigated to begin with? In other words, did she have jurisdiction to do so, given that the complaints are stale as 2007, and most importantly have been looked at by other authorities who've come to the conclusion that on the very same set of facts, applying the same set of laws, there hasn't been any wrongdoing. So that's the first ground. But the second one is, and most gravely from our perspective, is that we think she paid lip service to the interaction between the minister's submissions, other implicated parties' submissions, between when she issued a notice to say you might be implicated and when she issued the report. We think not much investigation, if any, took place, and secondly, that her legal interpretation is quite challenged in the sense that it is incorrect application of the law.
How did you access the report? Because there are reports that you only found out about the Public Protector's report through the media.
Well, like all of you, we only learned of the media briefing by way of a statement from her office, and we only got to learn then that we are a party against whom a report would be issued, and the media briefing went ahead, I think, somewhere around 12:30, 12:45. We got the report officially at 16:32 on that particular day. So it was delivered officially to his office later in the afternoon of Friday.
Okay. In the papers, we're reporting here that one of Minister Gordhan's complaints is that Advocate Mkhwebane is using her office for political motives. I spoke to the Deputy Public Protector and he said there are other reports and there is other work that the Public Protector's office does. The media is latching onto this one because it's a juicy story, and that Minister Gordhan is almost being petulant and not answering to basic things that he's asked to. Is that correct?
No, it's not correct. I mean, the questions that were put to Minister Gordhan have been answered in great detail, both as regards facts and as regards legal application that her office ought to have taken into account. And of course, when that doesn't happen, in the sense that the facts are disregarded and the investigation is not what it ought to have been, and the law application leaves much to be desired, then of course the question that minister must ask himself is then this outcome of this report, what possible motive could be driven by it, and of course he is entitled to make of it what he has in the court papers, much as the court of public opinion will also do likewise.
Was there a chance of waiting to see if the president would act in the manner that was prescribed by the Public Protector or recommended by the Public Protector, or was it urgent that Minister felt he needed to act now before anything else happened?
Well, remember there's report 1, which relates to Mr. Pilay's retirement. In relation to that report, of course, there are interchanges between the Public Protector and the President's office about what the President ought to do. In relation to this report, unlike the first one, there are very specific timelines for various institutions to act. The President being the first one, to say within 30 days he must take disciplinary action. We still don't know what that means, by the way, as a matter of law. And secondly, that the Speaker, within 14 days, must convene an ethics committee to look into Minister Pravin Gordhan's answers to Parliament back in the day. And then the rest. I mean, even the National Director of Public Prosecutions is being directed to expedite prosecutions. I mean, that institution is itself independent of the Public Protector's office and can't be directed by anybody, not even the President, to do anything. And likewise, the Commissioner of Police has been told to investigate and so forth. So all of those remedial actions, including the timelines that have been put to it, have not triggered this urgent application that Minister had to prefer and then attached to it is an actual review application that says to the court, she's gotten it wrong on fact and law, and she hasn't done what was expected of her in terms of investigation. She hasn't considered submissions we've made, and therefore the report must be reviewed and set aside.
So one of the issues that's come up is this SARS so-called rogue unit. The issue doesn't seem to go away. And also in the papers, Minister Gordhan speaking about how political motives perhaps are being used. Factions are trying to use her office. Well, he's spoken about that. How do you draw a line between which kind of people access the Public Protector's office and should be able to access, I think the complaint in this case was Floyd Chivambu, and be allowed to have the same rights as anyone else to access that office and to investigate issues that they believe are important?
Well, access to that office is sacrosanct. Everybody, including politicians, should be able to access that office. What is challenging for us is in circumstances where the complaint consists of many disclaimed findings. So Sunday Times says, we're sorry for the story we ran. Judge Kruon Sori says, I apologize for the findings I've made. KPMG disowns its own report. Nugent Commission of Inquiry says there's nothing wrong. Then you must ask yourself, really, in those circumstances, should the Office of the Public Protector simply have not said, this complaint has been ventilated by so many different authorities? And I always say this, remember, we're looking at the same facts and we're applying the same law. And all of these authorities have done so and have come to the conclusion that nothing wrong untoward has been done, and that includes the National Director of Public Prosecutions. It begs the question, why must this particular complaint be entertained? And it doesn't close the gate to anybody to lodge complaints of this nature.
Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Tebogo Malatji, he's a lawyer for the Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin